Over the past few years, I've averaged spending roughly $14 to $15 million every single year with Google Ads alone, and that too profitably. And in this video, I'm not really here to flex, rather, I'm going to show you what I wish I had known from the very beginning so you can scale without burning your money like I often did. Now, I'm gonna be honest with one thing right up from the start. I struggled initially a lot because back when I started, which was roughly 2016, 2017 with Google Ads, there were very few pieces of information available out there when it came to running Google Ads profitably or when it came to running them for e-commerce brands, let alone. And unfortunately, I didn't have my own videos to look at back in the day. But this caused me to then basically go with the approaches which I had no clue would be working or not. And during that time, I barely had any money to even test, but because I had no other way to go about it, what I would often do is I would often just throw stuff at the wall and just see where that would take me, which would eventually lead me to making a lot of mistakes which could have easily been avoided. But from spending a lot of my own money, from just trial and error, I figured out exactly the things that I should have done from the start for each step of the stage, from $25,000 per month in revenue to 50 to 100 to even $500,000 per month in revenue and more. But during this process, there were a few major mistakes I made. The first mistake was that I was always constantly overcomplicating the account structure. So nowadays, I really prefer and go after a more simplistic approach, which means mostly only 1 to 3 major campaigns that are either for testing with cold traffic or they're for scaling. I like to keep things very clean, whether it be with the asset groups or just with the product segregation strategies themselves. And I like to focus on a simplistic approach which prevents any types of overlap. This is one major mistake I kept on doing during the start, which I would have definitely done differently if I had known more about it. Because what most brand owners also think is the more stuff you do, the more stuff you throw at the wall, the better it's going to perform, and eventually the more you're going to scale. This is far from the truth. All this does is it overcomplicates the process and makes it more difficult for the algorithm to understand what to even do. The second major mistake I made during this process, which I'd probably do differently now, is I completely ignored the product feed quality. I mean, I was in the product feed itself changing the product titles based on the keywords. I would every so often change the descriptions, maybe do some little bit of A/B testing with the product images, but it was not really more of a buying intent approach. I was again just throwing stuff at the wall, just hoping that my next change would make my results better. Now, nowadays, what I like to personally do is I like to treat the feed like a landing page. I like to basically optimize product titles, GTIN numbers, custom labels, etc. I like to keep everything optimized in a way where I know that my ideal audience is going to like looking at this feed. My ideal audience is going to interact with it, because same thing like with the landing page. If you're not getting a good conversion rate, if people are just bouncing off, there's not going to be any momentum that gets gained from the landing page, and you would need to go from top to bottom, left to right, to optimize the landing page to make things better for your perfect customer. You have to approach your feed in that same manner, which nowadays I do all the time, but back then I didn't really do those things, and as a result, my product feed quality was absolute trash and my results were absolute trash. The third mistake I made that I would probably do differently right now is I did too much testing and not enough strategies. Now, I mentioned earlier that my main testing strategy back in the day was just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Now, I like to test with a purpose, whether it's testing a specific message, or whether it's the pricing, or whether it's the creatives, or whether it's the product segregation strategy. Anything and everything I do, whether it be for my brands, for my clients' brands, it's all done with a specific purpose in mind, whether it's a ROAS goal, whether it's a revenue goal, CPA goal, whatever it is. Having an end goal should be what is driving you and your testing from the beginning, because otherwise you don't have any types of real goals for testing and you're just blindly going about doing things. Which, by the way, if you run a brand doing $50,000 or more per month in revenue, you need some extra help scaling your brand to the next level. Go on to my website, yourmarketing.com, and schedule a completely free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen. The fourth mistake I made that I'd probably do differently right now is I often try to scale too fast, too soon. Now, you've probably dealt with this yourself as a brand owner, where you see some products or a specific product really start to kick off and really start to gain momentum. It's getting you 10 sales a day, 20, 30, 50. It's starting to really gain that momentum that you always wanted. Now, it's fairly common to go absolutely insane with happiness, business, go crazy, and try to now 2x your budgets, 3x, 4x your budgets rapidly because you already have this momentum, so it should technically work, right? Well, this is what I used to think back in the day as well, and this caused me to make a lot of grave mistakes, caused me to destroy a lot of momentum often when it came to my best selling products. Now, I scale nowadays in stages with profit-friendly guardrails to kind of back it up. Now, what that means essentially is I only let the profit do the scaling for me. Basically, if the profit is there for a consecutive amount of days, 3, 5, 7, 14 days, that's when I scale, and not just any random amount like 2x, 5x, only the 20 to 30% scale increment, whether that be with budgets or whether that be by decreasing the bids or the target ROAS restrictions. But scaling based on these stages allows the brand to properly level up without having too much input or without adding too many unnecessary things to the overall process. You want to keep scale very simple, very straightforward, and trust me, Google wants you to spend more money, and it's gonna give you the signal that when it's ready to spend more of your money. But you personally should only be pulling the trigger when the profit is there. But the fifth major mistake I made during this entire process is not trusting the algorithm enough, but at the same time also over trusting it. Now, nowadays, I basically guide the algorithm towards the right direction with things like smart exclusions of placements or keywords or proper audience signals, but I let the algorithm breathe. I don't want to micromanage it, but at the same time, I don't want to set it completely free and just let it go and do its own thing, because that also can be very detrimental to your overall revenue and profitability. But overall, from these mistakes, here's a few things that I learned to actually do very, very differently, and I almost always follow these steps and these approaches regardless of what niche or industry the brand I'm working with is in. First is the feed first thinking approach. Now, what you want to understand is the more quality data that's getting inserted or just getting input from your end, the more quality results you get out of that data, meaning the more quality audience will target, the better results they will provide, so on and so forth. So always approach your entire strategy with the feed first in mind. You don't want to jump in with just what's the next button I'm going to click approach or what's the next campaign I'm going to launch approach. Rather, what's the best thing I can do for my feed to make it ideal for the perfect audience to click on it, to then interact with it. You also want to create variety in your asset groups. I see so many brands out there when it comes to performance max campaign or even search campaigns, for example, their asset groups or their keyword section is just a bunch of random stuff running all at the same time. Bunch of random headlines, UGC content if they have some, overlays, product angles, signals, and there's really no proper A/B testing. You want to, in 2025 and onwards, have a proper A/B testing approach in mind and in effect. Otherwise, you're going to be doing way too many things at once and nothing's going to get tested properly. The algorithm is going to become very, very confused. Third thing you absolutely want to do, which I do right now all the time, is profit-centric scaling. Not just chasing revenue, rather chasing profit margins. The net margins should tell you if your campaigns are ready to scale, nothing else. It doesn't matter if you're getting 50 sales on a product. If you're barely break even on that product, it's not ready to scale. In fact, you should descale it from 50 sales a day to maybe 30 or 20, while ensuring you become more and more profitable, because that's what's going to drive true scale forward for your business as a whole. And one thing you always want to do, doesn't matter what you do, whether it's Google Ads or anything else, always build around buying intent. You don't want to just go in with the approach of trying to attract every single person out there, because a lot of these people will waste your budget, will waste your money with random clicks when they're not even in the buying intent mood. You want to only target people who are ready to buy, and that too right now. You don't even want to be targeting those people ideally for search intent based keywords like how does this product work or where does this product work, so on and so forth. It should be more buying intent based. But as long as you focus on a proper retention system along with the proper Google Ads strategies that start from the foundation up, you're always going to be able to scale to the very next level, like we have with these brands right here. I mean, the last 365 days, a whole year, we've been able to spend $14 million to generate back $82.6 million. That's almost a 6x ROAS, and this doesn't even count the brands which we no longer work with right now for whatever reason, or the individuals that watch my YouTube videos and get results from those. But again, if you run a brand doing $50,000 or more per month in revenue, you need some extra help scaling to the next level with Google, go on to my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen.